Testing 1, 2, 3. All right, we're back. This would be good. Fucking can't undo that. Oh, damn. Okay. Let's just shrink back down. Okay, so React content time, right? While everything still works, let's dig into some HaskLOL from ThePrimeTime. Been following this motherfucker for a little bit, and he does a lot of React to programming article content, and sometimes has very educational takes. I have some things to say about Haskell off the get-go. I dug into it a little bit in college. Like, when I say a little bit, I mean not enough. I can't say that I've actually written any Haskell now that I think about it. Maybe briefly, but in general, the important points that I want to throw out about Haskell in terms of what it's kind of given me. So for one, there's a piece of software that I love that my website's actually built with called Pandoc. Pandoc is actually written in Haskell, and it's fucking phenomenal. You can convert documents from Markdown into HTML, PDF. It can even accept LaTeX, or LaTeX, I should say. Don't want anyone calling me out on that one. But it's really powerful software, and it's written in Haskell. So it's important to note that you can't say that nothing good has been written in Haskell, because that's one great piece of software right off the get-go. But in addition to that, I want to point out that Haskell has introduced me to the concept of monads. And one great example of a useful monadic concept that I've found appearing in modern programming languages such as Golang and Rust would be the idea of the maybe monad. Now, the maybe monad I actually attempted to implement for my dungeon crawler project A many, many years ago, like literally over 10 years at this point, in Objective-C, as an attempt to kind of validate my understanding of how that monad and concept is supposed to work. And you find a lot of modern Go language and Rust programmers utilizing this same idea in their day-to-day workflow without actually needing to use a monad, because it's kind of more about like the computational aspect than anything, right? So sit back, relax. We're going to absorb some HaskLOL, some evildojo Reacts content here. Let's go.
I am just in absolute love with the incredible green that is the cult of Haskell programmers. It's spooky, it's esoteric, but it's also the key to understanding the rise and relevance of functional programming.
So is it? Because can I think of any incidences, or no, it's not, because yeah, Lisp, obviously, Scheme, Common Lisp, like key to understanding the rise and relevance of functional programming. No, you could probably eliminate Haskell from the entire programmer timeline and never once ever discuss it in a programmer's life, because there's so many other ways that we can discuss things like lambda calculus, right? Like, it's not just Haskell. So right away, the Wired is fucking... It's not spooky. What the fuck is spooky about fucking Haskell? Like, for real. It's just a functional programming language. Why throw that out as like no argument that it's esoteric, right? Like, totally fucking toy compiler land in some cases, but like I said, real software has been written in it, so you can't argue that. So how is it key though? I'm curious. What is their take here?
It's funny when they said the word relevance. It's pretty good. Can we agree? Dude, right now, I've literally just emotionally bruised so many people right now. People are just like, what the hell, man? You know that Haskell is very relevant. All right. Anyways, nice. Sieve. I'm glad we did the sieve. All right. At my first job out of college, I was assigned the task of rewriting the autocomplete feature of a search page. The original code entombed in a decrepit. Oh my goodness! Wow. The original code entombed in a decrepit code base was a nauseating monstrosity that others wanted no truck.
Now that I think about it, because of the way that I'm facing the monitor, perhaps I should be over here.
With. Am I reading that wrong? Dude, am I dyslexia mentioned this morning? No truck with. Wanted no truck with? What does that phrase even mean? I've never heard this. Does anyone know what no truck with? Yeah.
Wanted no truck with. I've never heard that either.
Yeah, these colors are hurting my eyes here. I'll turn dark readers back on. I don't know what that I've never actually heard this phrase, no truck with. Is this one of those functional phrases? It means you want nothing to do with it. Yeah, but I could guess that, but no truck with. I've just never heard someone say it. Is this a Haskell thing? Anyways, the plan was to rewrite it in TypeScript, a dialect of JavaScript. That's what we're calling TypeScript now. Drawing on a library that incorporated some handy features from a language called Haskell. Haskell. It sounded like a good name for a weapon, a well-sharpened blade like scimitar or katana. The strong German-sounding plosive in its name, as in Nietzsche or Kafka, added a menacing edge. What the fuck am I reading? What am I reading? All I really knew about the language was that it was challenging and intended for math PhDs. Okay.
It is challenging, to be fair. Would I say it's for math PhDs? Nah, I don't think so.
That's okay. At least we're getting to the bottom of it. Peak journalisming. At least this is true. Okay, this is true. I know a person who works at a company, only works there to code Haskell. The person gives zero fuck about the status of the company or the people working there. The person literally just work to write Haskell. Pick? We're talking about Pick right now? Pick mentioned? Sounds Orwellian to you? How does that sound Orwellian? The rewrite could be done without knowing Haskell technically, but I was an overeager graduate with a challenge-accepted attitude. Okay, by the way, this is great. This is such a sweet thing. I remember being in 2015 when we were doing Falcor, and someone's like, we need the iOS client Objective-C, and I volunteered to write Objective-C unironically, even though I knew I'd hate it, because I wanted to be the guy that could write any language with any level of challenge and do it no matter what. It was just like, that's just what I wanted. And I feel like that attitude has served me. Anytime there's a problem, I want to be the one that can just destroy it. I don't
get why Objective-C gets so much hate, honestly. Like, I went into it really averse, right? Because I was coming from Java and C++ land, where the syntax kind of fits a certain format, and Objective-C out of left field wraps everything in brackets. You know what I'm talking about if you've ever written iOS software. Fuck. I wonder how people are feeling about the conversion from Objective-C to Swift, or how many developers are on one side of the fence or the other. That'd be something to kind of explore in the future if I ever get back to iOS.
Want to be the person that tries to like shy away, like, moo, I'm gonna have to use Xcode. And they have a shitty thing. You gave up on OCaml? I didn't give up on OCaml. It's very, very simple. Functional programming does not work for YouTube videos or for Twitch content or for anything. It just doesn't. People don't like watching it. I know you guys think functional programming is great. You don't like it. Nobody likes it.
It's variable how much one can like it. Like, anyone who's been watching my game development videos has seen that I make rather pretty good use of functional programming in C++ by applying lambda functions to large data structures that I need to iterate over and apply the same function to over and over again. It's not that functional programming doesn't make for good content, and it's not that people don't enjoy it. It's that people aren't being taught the material correctly. Like, it's very easy to serialize the idea of being a computer if you can think from the perspective of one CPU. It becomes a lot more difficult if you have to raise your brain above this playing field. You have to travel into meta territory and then meta territory, right? Like, it took a long time, arguably, for me to really get it, right? And even then, the standard of any functional programming should be being able to write an interpreter for that language in the language itself. This was a regular part of computer science education for me. This is expected, even. Year 3 students are all, that's what we had to do for our final project, was write a scheme interpreter in Scheme. And that was a challenge, but it was a fun challenge, and it was definitely brain stretching, and I think a very valuable lesson, and teaches a lot of critical ideas along the way. Anyone who's working in functional programming should have at least done that much, right? Like, I don't think that a lot of these arguments make strong sense, but for noobs, I think for people who are on the come up, it is definitely, not something to start off with. MIT actually used to teach Scheme as its first programming language to new computer science students. And then they switched to Python. But the good news with Python is you can do fucking lambdas in that too. So, there's a lot of reasons why, after you pick up certain critical concepts, that you would want to do this sort of thing, right?
I get that there's like dozens of you. Okay, there's dozens upon dozens of you that absolutely love it. But the reality is you guys all want simple, procedural, C-like code that's easy to read, top to bottom, in and out, easy, okay?
Don't tell me what I want, bitch.
Oh, I think functional programming is slow. Mutation is fast as F. Blah. There's dozens of you. I mean, I hate to tell you this. This is what you want. It's not my...
What I just fucking tell you? I told you, don't tell me what I fucking want. I know what I want. And I want better from you, Primegen.
My fault. It's your fault. You
need to be working on some 0 days, man. You need to be working on some serious, like, hacker shit, right? Like, enough of this fucking article reacts, enough of this building fucking ASCII particle systems. You're just, like, bullshitting at this point. You just, like, need to get real and start making some real shit again. Not this, like, fun for streaming. Like, it's gonna be fun if you make it fun, right? Like, and you're a fun guy, so I don't see why you couldn't do some real shit other than these little pedantic ass, like you and fucking TJ, making these super boring projects that nobody gives a fuck about. I mean, that's why I started tuning out and started working on my own shit again, because it's like, okay, well, I get what you're doing, and I get the perspective that you're coming from and your history and experience level, and everyone comes in to this point at a certain level and experience level, right? So figuring out, like, what's the best bar to set for newcomers who, like, may have never done a thing with programming in their life, and they hop into the middle of your stream and are like, well, what the fuck is this? It's like, what is it? What are we even doing? Programming should be done in a way. Oh, hold on a second.
Sorry. I'm so excited.
Okay, let's continue. What was I ranting about? Yeah, I think the Primegen could be doing a lot better, and I definitely don't appreciate... I mean, he's just trying to kind of keep the kids in the corral at this point. Whoops, hit stop recording.
Quarter of the market, Prime. I could get all 14 of you in a room. True, but I disagree. What do you disagree with? How do you say true, but I disagree? I hate procedural code. No, you don't. You don't.
Everything is procedural at some point. I think that's why it's hateable. Because at some point you have to. It's unavoidable.
I know you want to say you hate it. Everyone, dude, this is just the greatest part. It's the greatest part about
We want C syntax was functional programming. Okay, so write C++, right? Like, just bow down, okay? Just get on your hands and knees and pray to the god Bjarn Strostrup for having created such a wonderful thing for us. And if you're not making use of it and you're trying to make excuses, like, just learn P threads, okay? Like, seriously, learn P threads, learn enough C++ to multi-thread to manage your fucking mutexes, right? And you don't need any other programming language. Period. End of discussion.
humanity is there's this idea in people's head what they want versus what they actually do. And it's always different. What you think you love likely isn't what you love. There's a reason we don't write assembly, Prime. Exactly. I agree.
It's more like I haven't been paid enough to write assembly, and actually I'm having so much fun making these videos that I might just start writing assembly for y'all on my own, because I want more excuses to fuck with assembly. It's magical. If you know what you're doing, you have to think in a certain way that is not how you write standard programs. And once you kind of understand what it is that you need to do for certain things, can become, just like any other programming task, a very nice back and forth, in and out type operation, you know? Learn the system calls, learn your different operators and operands, you know, learn the different registers on your architecture, and you're good to go. It's all a question of what you want to do at a certain point, and, you know, I think it's worth the exercise, right? Like, I think it's worth playing around with. I think it's worth doing just enough to get to a certain point, and if you find that this is something I could actually fuck with, then yeah, do it. But broad blanket statements applying to the majority, that's not what we're about here.
We shouldn't write assembly.
No, we should write assembly, absolutely, because how else are we going to get these 0 days, right? How else are we going to do the shell code that we need to inject into the vulnerable applications to actually get root on boxes? Shell code, assembly, right? Like, we can be quite dangerous at a certain point. We can certainly do some damage if we know what we're doing. And this is all the more reason that hackers should learn how to program, and programmers should learn how to hack.
I'm on your team. You think you do, but you don't. Dude, it's so funny. It's so funny watching people do this. Attitude. Let's see. Okay, the challenge accepted, attitude to everything. I bet you this person grew up playing Contra. Contra Battletoads. I think Battletoads gave me, like, today's, if I could teach my kids anything, it's to beat Elden Ring. The reason for beating Elden Ring as a kid, like, if you got kids, make them play Elden Ring. Here's the reason why, is that Elden Ring is going to be a game that teaches them patience.
Or Dark Souls. Or hell, I mean, like with myself, you know, like you say Elden Rings, you know, you're just naming, like, you know, a very recent popular game. For me, it's always been Super Mario Brothers. Like, I know adult ass humans who taught me how to play Super Smash Brothers Melee who were incapable of playing 2D platformers. Like, the games that, like, I emerged consciousness with itself. These people who kicked my ass at a Super Smash Brothers Melee were incapable of playing a platformer. Arguably the first platformer that actually mattered. Challenge accepted. This is part of the gamer, like, mantra. Like, I find it hard to believe that someone could call themselves a gamer if they don't have that attitude to begin with, if they're not actively doing hard things, especially in video games. What kind of gamer is going to play life on easy mode? right? Like that's not a game. That's like it's like a lazy river. No challenge involved.
It teaches them trying under hard times. Like Call of Duty, that game ain't hard. You like all you have to do is duck for a second or just replay it in 3 seconds. It's like it teaches you like the opposite of trying to actually beat something that's hard.
That's not. Have you ever tried to actually get your kill death ratio up? Have you ever actually prestiged multiple times? I did. That shit was hard, man. Like, I didn't start off being good at Call of Duty. That shit took effort. That shit took, like, when I was away from my desk, building iOS applications, going into my friend's room, plugging in the PS3 to the TV, loading up Black Ops, and going from 0.3 to 2.0 in a few months, just playing as often as I could, getting over that gamer rage from getting killed too many times, right? Like actually going through that and coming out on the other side. And as much as I don't want to give money to Sony for a PS5, I kind of miss playing those games because you could play them for like matches are generally like less than 10 minutes, right? Like there's like the time limit on Team Deathmatch. So like it was good for building an ebb and flow, and it was the perfect amount of time if you just want to sit down and play one match, or if you want to sit down for a few hours and grind out a few sessions, like there was something really desirable about that. And it's a different type of game though, and it's still hard because you're playing with other humans.
It's easy. You go
Fuck off. Oh my god, fuck off.
Call of Duty, you set it on the hardest thing, and you beat through it practically first try through the entire campaign.
All right, first of all, nobody plays campaign. You're doing it wrong. You're doing it wrong. What the fuck? I can confidently say I've never played through a single Call of Duty campaign. Like, if I'm going to play through a campaign, I will replay Doom. I will replay Doom 2. Really, I would say that beating those games on ultraviolence is an even more important thing than Elden Ring. Like, for real, for real.
Campaign's super awesome, by the way. Love the campaign. But it just teaches you nothing. Like, at all.
It teaches you hand-eye coordination. It teaches you patience. It teaches you teamwork. In order to consistently win across maps, you have to be good at communicating with your teammates. If you're not using some form of team speak, then you have to know how to take signals in the game and at least kind of hold back and not rush into situations. It teaches patience. It teaches a lot. A lot that you're not giving credit for, probably just for, views or whatever, but like, I'm glad that I have these thoughts now going into it, because every step of the way so far, you're just like taking the opposite approach.
Oh, I'm telling you, Elden Ring is amazing.
It is, but we have to acknowledge the predecessors, right? Forgetfulness of past orthodoxies is a sin in the Satanic Church. So with, like, let me just, hold on. I've got a good copy of my Bible right here. And if I remember correctly, let's see, where can I find this at? Where are the satanic sins at? What page? Um, mm, damn it, where the hell is it? Here we go. The 9 satanic sins. I'm just having trouble finding it in the actual book. They have it here on the website, though. Forgetfulness of past orthodoxies. Be aware that this is one of the keys to brainwashing people into accepting something new and different, when in reality it's something that was once widely accepted but is now presented in a new package. We are expected to rave about the genius of the creator and forget the original. This makes for a disposable society. I'm calling you out, Primogen. You are committing a satanic sin.
You actually have to win something.
Like Dark Souls mention, fuck. Demon Souls mention, fuck.
Even when it was absolutely uncalled for, I found whimsically titled tutorial book Learn You a Haskell for a Great Good. For great good. That's a great name. And spent the winter writing Haskell most evenings after work. It was like learning to program all over again. Long before Haskell coalesced into a programming language, it was a swarm of theoretical concepts. In 1977, the computer scientist John Backus delivered an influential lecture,
which is the Bacchus of CBNF, I believe. Bacchus Nauer form, which is a notation system used in the description of programming languages.
titled Can Programming Be Liberated from the von Neumann Style? In it, he argued that existing languages were becoming bloated and ineffective. Wow. Imagine arguing about bloatedness in 1977. This poor man, John Backus. I mean, just for a second, if John Backus, if you're still in love, could you please tweet how you feel about Next.js? This is it's so good. This is just so good. Man, you know what?
I guess that's a dunk on Next.js, but like I don't even fuck with JavaScript that hard to even have any idea what the fuck he's talking about right now.
This whole C phase, this whole C language is a little bit bloated, okay? C is just like one step from assembly. It's like almost assembly. Is he the B in Bacchus Nora form? He might be.
He is. How could you not know this? You worked at Netflix. You've made hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, and you didn't know this. You had to Google it. This motherfucker had to Google this shit.
BNF grammar. Oh my goodness. Who created John Backus? Yeah.
Yeah. I said that shit. I said that shit before you Googled it. You know why? Because I'm not a fucking idiot.
Okay, there we go. Man, we stand on the shoulders of giants. Every time I see this kind of stuff,
Your mustache can't save you.
all I think about is like, man, we truly do stand on the shoulder of giants. You gotta remember that like Algo
That's some amen shit, though.
60 and Fortran and these old languages, their alternative was machine code and punch cards. They used phrases like disk platter. When was the last time you thought about a platter? Let's just start all over on this one because I don't even remember where we were. Long before Haskell coalesced into a programming language, it was a swarm of theoretical concepts. In 1977, the computer scientist John Backus delivered an influential lecture, Can Programming Be Liberated from the von Neumann Style? In it, he argued existing languages were becoming bloated and ineffective. It's still very hilarious because I don't know what languages existed in 1977 other than Algo, Fortran, and C, but they do not give me the veneer of bloated. I don't know what to call them other than the most minimal languages I could possibly think of. Is there anything other than Lisp? C++ did not exist. Pascal? Did Pascal exist in 77? I don't think it did.
Oh, that's a good question. I actually wrote Pascal in high school. The first programming class I ever took at my high school in Virginia was in Pascal, of all languages. We used Turbo Pascal on iMacs, those fucking rounded Mac machines that had the handle on the top of the monitor, and the whole thing was built into one unit. We had an entire classroom full of those things, and my God, the interface for writing code in that was awful. Like, you actually had to click and drag, like, keywords from like a list on the left-hand side over to your source file, and the only things you could actually edit were things like what goes inside of the if or the while condition when you're writing a loop or a branch. Very little in the way of like couldn't type like shit for your own. All I wanted to do was be able to write fucking code. God damn it.
When was
So when did Pascal come out? Was it out in 77? I'm going to say no.
Pascal invented? Blaise Pascal, 1670. Okay, 1642, people. Blaise.
Shut up.
Pascal, the smartest man. Pascal Lang. Did you just add the word Lang to it? Pascal was fantastic, but Pascal, arguably one of the smartest men who have ever walked. Pascal programming language. And by the way, I didn't realize that Pascal
Damn, 70, I was way off.
was invented 1970. Okay. Oh, which emphasized the orderly use of conditional and loop control structures without go-to statements. Oh, that's cool. Well, rock on, Pascal. I didn't realize Pascal's that old. Okay. Hey, was a prodigy. Sadly died young. Yeah, I know. Those things are always sad. It was a clarion call to evolve functional programming from mathematical esoterica to a practical tool. You know, I make fun of functional programming all the time. I do. I absolutely make fun of functional programming constantly. But I will say that maybe it is better. I cannot say for sure because I've never been talented enough to do functional programming at an extremely fast pace and high level.
Here's the fact of the matter, Primogen. We couldn't have functional programming without procedural. One implies the other, right? Like, if you think about like what it takes to actually build out a functional interpreter, I mean, you're gonna have to at some point in the stack, like, you know, this is why I think like, you know, the whole chicken, before the egg problem is so interesting in compilers. And thinking about the history of bootstrapping, right? Like, are any of the modern languages bootstrapped? Like, that's a good question. You know, we should look into that sometime.
Everyone that does functional programming swears by it. And a mark of a fool is a man who can pass by a multitude of people saying something is good and believe it is evil without even understanding it, right? Like, that's a mark of a fool in my book. So I'm not going to say it's not that, but not going to do it. All right, programming.
You're missing out, dude. I think there's a lot of opportunity to apply functional techniques to the various projects, like the particle stuff, all the stuff you do on stream. You could easily convert your existing code. Maybe not so easily. I don't know how well Go does functional, but you can do it in Python. You can do it in C++. Where there's a will, there's a way.
Paradigms are mainly divided into imperative programming and functional programming. The dichotomy isn't clear-cut, as a growing number of languages support both styles. Actually, I still think this is Rust's greatest achievement, is that Rust allowed for mostly functional programming without breaking from a C style. I think that's honestly Rust's greatest benefit. I think that's their biggest win. I truly do. I think that's their biggest win. Their second biggest win is the type system. And I think that I would just love to see a dropping. I would love to see a drop of the borrowed. Again, I still think Go plus Rust would be so good. Like what's it called? Borgo? Is that the name of the language? Borgo?
Never heard of this one.
All Borgo is, okay, that's a village. Okay, village, GitHub. If you haven't seen this, this is super cool. All it is, I mean, there's no way I'd ever use this just because I'd never bet the farm on this, right? But all it is it's a language that you write, and then it uses all the Go stuff, and it compiles it down into valid Go. So you just go, hey, I just want a result int, and then it does a result int, and it does all these things that you normally would get used to, like the question mark operator and all that. You have a defer source close. So it feels just like Go, but it also feels just like Rust. To me, this is extremely compelling. Yeah, the holy hell, they fixed Golang. Yeah, exactly. Like this sounds like a Borgo. I mean, this actually sounds, it's Gleam for dummies. It's Gleam for dummies, right? It's Gleam, but procedural. Like, again, if Gleam was procedural, I think I would love Gleam.
All right, we're going to take a little pause here. I'll be right back. All right, let's get back to it.
But for purposes, it may be enough to say that in imperative programming, you write code as a series of steps, line by line, while functional programming, you define mathematical functions and let the machine worry about the steps.
In pure functional, yes. That's essentially how it is. And just like I was saying before, you can't have one without the other. When you let the machine handle things, you're basically saying, it's just like with an interpreted language. Like at a certain point, you're passing off control of your program to something else, right? Like it's one reason I think a lot of people dig C. A lot of reasons why people dig C++. A lot of reasons why a lot of people dig assembly, much to the, fucking web dev, dismay of the web dev audience that you cater to, like, you talk a lot about TypeScript and shit like that, but, like, how often do we get a chance to talk about the mathematical foundations of computability to begin with, and then apply those in our day-to-day programming practices, right? Like, it doesn't happen too often unless you make it happen, unless you have a proper computer science education.
I don't know about that. That sounds a little too magical for me. In terms of actual functionality and usage, imperative programming is far more common approach. Facts. Before Haskell, academic researchers had implemented certain functional concepts in a language they worked with. But in the late...
Can we imagine a universe for a moment where it's the opposite way around, where functional programming is the major paradigm that practiced by most people? Is that possible? Imagine another civilization, like, imagine how advanced we would be as a society if we just made it the thing that new programmers learn to start with. We could seed an entire generation of advanced skill software developers, and may even be able to make better use of all of these LLM thingies to begin with, if not for us just not doing more functional.
1980s, a group of computer scientists came together to smelt them into a single language. They named it after the logician mathematician Haskell Curry.
Oh man, I can't wait to get to talk about currying functions. God, I'm fucking hungry.
Damn, you even curry functions? Yo, in Haskell, we curry functions.
Yeah, but you can curry functions in other languages too. That's not like strictly a Haskell thing.
Whose work is foundational to programming language theory. The original plan was to name it Curry, but the group soon realized, a bullet dodged, that this would make it vulnerable to bad culinary puns. Think about it for a second. That they're going to make a language and going to name it after you, but they choose your first name because your last name is too bad for puns. Damn, man. I mean, it's like, feels really good you got it named after you, but also kind of hurts a little bit. The Haskell committee would blowtorch the messy excess of imperative programming with high-powered mathematics, sculpt a new chassis with a guidance of advanced logic. Why is this called chassis? Right? This is you pronounce this thing chassis. Why? It's French or something, dude. Chass. It's a bunch of chass. Got a little ass in their ass mentioned. And weld everything together with modern compiling techniques. Out of the scalding forge, Haskell 1.0 was born. Like, I know this writing is a little ridiculous, but I must say that he writes much better than me. Haskell simply looked different from anything I'd ever seen. Spooky symbols proliferated. The syntax was almost offensively terse. The code for Fibonacci.
I don't buy that those symbols are spooky. They're no more spooky than, like, fucking Perl.
Sequence, which can span multiple lines in other languages, can be written as a one-liner shorter than most sequences or sentences in this article. Fib 01 zip plus with fibs tail fibs. Is that real? I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm not loving the look of that. Okay, that doesn't make me hot and bothered. You might as well sign off a Haskell program with QED. I assume that's how you end a program. Right? That a program, process.exit 0 is equivalent to QED. Do you just QED to, like, close the program? Oh, they reinvented Perl. No, everybody knows that Perl was invented by Larry Wall when Larry Wall's forehead hit Larry Wall's keyboard, and a series of symbols told Larry Wall that this is a message from God, in which Larry Wall, the prophet from God, should invent Larry Wall's new language.
No. First of all, Terry Davis was a prophet, okay? Like, let's get the meme correct. Larry Wall is a cool guy, and he wears fun shirts. And he made a semi-decent language that I'm able to use IRC with. But There's only one God but God, and Terry Davis was his prophet.
Language, which is Perl, which Larry Wall did. Everybody knows that. Whenever I set out to learn a new language, the first small program I try to write is a JSON parser.
Dog, you seriously set out to write a JSON parser? That's a heavy-duty fucking task. I mean, shit. The JSON parser I'm using was built by a whole-ass Chinese company, and I open-sourced it. It's kind of good. It's got problems. But he's right. Honestly, writing a parser for anything is a great way to learn a new language, although a bit heavy duty.
Really? A JSON parser? I mean, I guess it feels simple, right? Because JSON.org, right? Like, by the way, the biggest mistake in all of programming is right here. Did you know that? The biggest mistake in all of programming is right here. That's it. Right there. Does anyone know what it is? A comma. That's right. An effing comma. If you would have put a comma, bro, anti-aliasing. Fuck off. Dude, a comma. Just put a freaking comma there and you'll make my life better. Damn.
That's one of my problems is that if I try to do things with an extra comma in an array of objects in JSON at the very end, like I would want to in C or other languages, I can't do that. And the parser yells at me and it's not clear why. And I have to go through and figure out, oh, hey, I got an extra comma at the end of my shit. Fuck, dude.
I guess, yeah, okay, JSON parser, maybe that's not crazy, which converts a data format commonly used for web applications into a structure that can be manipulated by a computer. Whereas the parser I remember writing in C had resulted in programmatic grotesquerie spanning 1,000+ lines. I felt frisson of pleasure. Dude, what is this writing? I felt a frisson of pleasure when Haskell allowed me to achieve it in under 100. How long did it take to write? How long did it take to write those 100 though? That's what I want to know. I want to know this frisson of pleasure. Okay, is frisson? Does that mean nerdgasm? French is underrated? Is it? I'd say the only person that thinks French is underrated is the French. Okay, it took a week of fighting the GHC. Yeah. 100 lines in 1,000 hours. Boom, let's go. Okay, frisson. You can frisson these nuts. At the same time, I understood almost immediately why Haskell was and still is considered a language more admired than used.
That's such a good burn, though. He's not wrong. Even I'm guilty of this.
You can't write that. You can't write that. Even one of its most basic concepts, that of the monad, has spawned a cottage industry of explainers, analogies, and videos. Dude, it's an effing burrito. It makes perfect sense if you just think of it as a burrito. That's all a monad is.
Yeah, kind of.
So straightforward. A notoriously unhelpful explanation, famous enough to be autocompleted by Google, goes, a monad is just a monoid in the category of endofunctors.
Yes, that's a classic line right there. It's true, and it'll lead you down quite the rabbit hole, reading about monoids, endofunctors, category theory, like really advanced mathematics shit that's totally unnecessary for your average day-to-day programmer, but very fun to explore into if you want to blow your own fucking mind.
I do love, I mean, that's a very hilarious phrase. I love it. I love it. The language is also more despised than explored. Steve Yegi, a popular curmudgeon blogger of
I'm going to be mad if they don't mention Pandoc. We're like almost at the end of the video.
yesteryear, once wrote a satirical post about how at long last the Haskell community had managed to find the one industry programmer who gives a shit about Haskell. We read this. We read that one. This was such a good blog post. Oh my goodness, they held like meetings, right? Oh my goodness. Let's see. Press. Was there like a press? Yeah. This one was so good. I love that one. That one was so funny. For programmers like Yegi, Haskell is a byword for a kind of over-intellectualized, impractical language with little industry application.
Not true. Not true at all.
Pick, do you actually find that to be true? Pick, you're the longest writer of Haskell that I know. Do you eventually get super good at Haskell and you actually become a true wizard able to build things? Or is Haskell like forever the difficult language? I just want to hear the real answer here. Do you transcend or is it always just pure intellectual masturbation? There's always a horizon to look at with Haskell. You just find a middle ground that you can use. Okay, so you can forever keep getting... There's more to go, but maybe you don't need to go that far. Okay. What Yegi didn't understand, however, is that using Haskell is rarely a pragmatic decision. What the fuck? This article is too good. It is an intellectual, even aesthetic one. In its essence, Haskell has more in common with films of Charlie Kaufman than other programming languages. Highly cerebral, charmingly offbeat, and oddly tasteful. I have never used any of those. Any of those words have never been used to describe a programming language for me. Appreciated by those in the know and judged by outsiders as pretentious.
Now I think about it, I can't think of a Charlie Kaufman film that I've actually seen. Cerebral, charmingly offbeat, and oddly tasteful. That Haskell never gained widespread adoption exemplified a paradoxical truth in software engineering. Great programming languages aren't always great for programming. Damn.
I don't actually judge it as pretentious. Haskell is, one might say, a cult classic. Oh, it's like Evil Dead 2. Is Haskell the Evil Dead 2 of programming languages? Is that fair? By the way, me and my kids did sit down this weekend and watched Evil Dead 2. I don't believe somebody wrote this. I do. You can tell that this is not an LLM because this is actually, it's actually funny, right? LLMs give you the veneer of funny, but they're not actually funny. JavaScript, charmingly offbeat. That Haskell, okay, that's a tweet. And here we go. That Haskell never gained widespread adoption exemplifies a paradoxical truth in software engineering. Great programming languages aren't always great for programming. Dude, okay, guys, the horse is dead. We don't have to keep beating it. My goodness. This is poor language. Haskell is not entirely more difficult to learn than something like C, but the two languages pose different challenges. Writing in C is akin to precise engineering, requiring the kind of attention demanded of a skilled horologist. But Haskell code is really code-shaped mathematical expressions. C is a quintessential engineering language. Haskell is a pure mathematician's. A good engineer and a good mathematician aptitudes don't always overlap. The industry's not so well-kept secret is that most programmers aren't as good at math or logic as you might think. This is mostly fine. This is my favorite way to describe anything. It's mostly fine. After all, many doctors would make poor molecular biologists. Few lawyers are legal philosophers, and a great deal of MBAs know zilch about econometrics. But this means few programmers can really master Haskell. This includes me, of course, whose legs weaken at the sight of such expressions as F coalgebra and type class metaprogramming. I honestly am too stupid to know what this even means.
I've actually never heard F coalgebra before. That's a new one to me.
Like, I know what algebra is. Coalgebra, now I have no idea. You throw an F in there, we're just not worthy. Dude, I know this. Dude, this is the most, typically I'm not a huge fan of Wired, but this is based. This is based as it gets, okay?
I don't think it's that based.
Still, when I think about Haskell, a line about Martin Amis prose comes to mind. The primacy he gives to style over matter. Oh, I like that phrase. I like that phrase a lot. Again, I know I've mentioned this a couple times. Oh, I just accidentally went to a random status. Please tell me this is the one. This right here, I couldn't agree more. If I can't find an aesthetically pleasing way of doing it, I'd rather not. I think there's something really great about this. I keep, sorry, this has been just earwormed in me for the last couple days. And I keep thinking about this. Like, I can't help but to think about this, which is, I realize so much of what I've done is because I find it pretty, right? Like, I find it pleasing. I keep thinking about DHH. Well, I keep thinking about this phrase, okay? That's so much of what I do is because I find it beautiful, right? And the thing is I don't necessarily find a programming language beautiful, but I find building something that's technically challenging beautiful, right? Like beauty is obvious. There's a lot to do with beauty and how you shape what you think is beautiful and all that kind of stuff. We're not arguing over that thing. I'm not going to argue the whole Coolidge truth is your proportionate understanding of beauty. But I do like this idea that you should be driven by the style over matter. I do like it.
It sounds counter to stuff that he said recently about clean code not being the way to build things. Maybe he's flip-flopping his opinion on this one, but damn, I'm thinking like he's not wrong, but at the same time, it seems counter to certain things that he himself has said on certain, recent streams.
I do like that. Haskell programmers are style supremacists, and it's nothing to apologize for. In an industry often fixated on utility and expediency, the Haskell community should not feel obligated to summon evidence of its usefulness.
The Haskell community should not feel obligated to summon evidence of its usefulness. Right, because anyone who's dug deep enough can find Pandoc. Swear to God, Pandoc mention, 22 minutes in, no Pandoc. Where the fuck is the most useful piece of Haskell software, and why is it not in this video or this article?
The horse is dead, people. The horse is dead. Why do we got to do this? Instead, it should simply retort, what's the problem with useless intellect?
That's so wrong and fucked. Like just because you can do type masturbation in Haskell doesn't mean that it's not useful. In fact, it's evidence of its utility, because being able to do things in a clean way is very important.
Stop it! It's dead! Because the thing about useless exercises, they don't stay useless for long. Even when industry programmers shunned Haskell, language designers took note. In recent years, a Haskell-styled paradigm has come into vogue because of the treasury of benefits it offers, rendering certain categories of bugs impossible by design, making a program's correctness more provable, and enabling easy parallel computation.
That's one of the biggest benefits to functional, is that if your environment is set up in a correct way, then when you write functional code, you don't have to think about whether or not you're correctly using all the threads, or whether or not you're doing things, lock and unlock in a proper manner. Like you can remove the need to even think about that level of implementation and focus more on what it is that you're actually doing at a higher level. Separation of concerns, everyone's going to operate a different part of the stack. But being able to traverse the two is important. Being able to go from imperative land to functional land and vice versa. If you can do that, then I think you're a good computer scientist. And knowing when to use one or the other, and not getting stuck in this stupid wheelhouse of like which is better. It's not about what's better or worse. It's about what's right for the moment.
Some of the most anticipated updates featured in new versions of imperative languages are those inspired by functional programming. In the end, Bacchus' anti-von Neumann plea was heard. Programming has been liberated.
This was mostly a wasted read, wasted watch. I greatly wasted my time. I wish I had my 40 minutes of my life back.
I like that ending. I do agree. No, I actually really do love this. Uselessness is not necessarily always an exercise in uselessness. I can tell you that everything that I've built that quote unquote.
Agree. I still have my quines I can get back to. A lot of people tell me I'm wasting my time there, but it's fun. And you can really create some beautiful, interesting things that have no real application immediately apparent in the real world. I say no immediate application because I think that Quines are still rife for exploration in a lot of different regards and utilities and reasons, especially in the domain of like self-mutating code, right? Like, wouldn't it be cool to like be able to create like a piece of malware or a virus that is able to shift itself in a way that the initial signature that someone might grab for the binary. Hold on. Grandma's doing something crazy. Let's finish this off.
Quote, has been useless on the outside, has almost exclusively helped me up-level my career and my job throughout my life. All the things that I did. Building a neural net in JavaScript got me really good at JavaScript. It got me so good at JavaScript, even though now that I look at it, I think it's completely garbage. But the first time doing it made me much better. Understanding and learning about monads, though monads were not quite all that hip in 2014, but learning all about it and building out the logging for all of the 4 UIs
2014, Jesus Christ, dude. Like, I was digging into Haskell in 2007 as well as 2013. And then again, once I discovered Pandoc. And I've actually recently dug into Pandoc far enough to find out, like, where it makes web requests, right? Like, because sometimes it goes to grab URLs that you pass into things like, for instance, if you need to render a PDF document that contains an image, there's a web request in Pandoc in Haskell that actually goes out to the web and grabs that image. And it's rife for vulnerability research. Haskell is interesting, right? Like, and he has a really good point here about like building things that appear to be useless, because really, at the end of the day, is anything actually, quote, useless, right?
At Netflix by using a monad-like structure was super fantastic, right? Was super fantastic, and it has really genuinely been a big help. It's been a big help in my career, all those little things, and so I've been very, very happy learning these small, teeny tiny stuff.
Hold on. Grandma put the dog food bowl on the floor, and I'm not sure that her dog actually finished eating. We have two dogs that like to lick the third dog's dog food bowl after she's done eating. Grandma's got a bad habit about certain things. All right, I'm back. Let's fucking finish this.
When did you make a neural net in JavaScript? When I was getting my master's in AI. This was way back in the day, right? So 11 years ago. But I still just absolutely just like, it makes me feel, all the things that I did were quote unquote useless have just been nothing but useful looking forward. And so
Masters of AI is pretty good.
even though I think about all the dumb things I'm doing, even now, building this whole Vim with me real-time ASCII rendering engine where we're actually getting to the point of compression and all that stuff. Like, yeah, it's truly like not useful on the surface, but the amount of things that I'm learning, the ability that I've gotten at Go, all the things, like I now know Go well enough to actually start identifying all these common pitfalls. And I'm just realizing like how good like these type of projects really are. Like they're absolutely useless, but they absolutely make you a better programmer, a better problem solver, able to see problems in bigger and bigger pictures, and it just really up-level your skills in every last way.
Then they aren't useless, are they?
Don't be afraid of being useless.
Just recognize the utility of things that at first glance appear to be useless. Looks can be deceiving. It seems people have forgotten that one.
Just like Haskell. Again.
Okay. Good video. Good stuff. I take back my statement about wanting my time back. We're going to try and do more like this. This was fun.